Hello and welcome to the channel. In this episode, we'll examine the life of the titular character in the HBO crime drama, Mare of Eastown. I find Mare to be an interesting character because her story arc is a good example of both the illusion of control and the transformative power of grief. We're going to dissect the character and see how this applies to her, and also we'll see if we can determine what made her this way by looking at the different aspects of her life in a sort of forensic way. Before we get started, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who watched my first video on Michael Scott of The Office. The responses I got were very encouraging, and because I'm new at this, it means a lot to me. So thanks. Also, this is a spoiler warning. I will be talking about some of the major events that take place in the story, so if you'd like to avoid hearing any of that, now would be a great time to stop watching this video. So now, Mare of Eastown, who is she? Well, let's prepare to dive. Let's establish some of the basic relevant facts about Mare before we really dig into things. She is a police detective in a sleepy northeastern American town in Pennsylvania. The town appears to be mostly made up of blue-collar, middle-class, salt-of-the-earth types that you might expect to find in a place like this. The Eastown community is pretty tight-knit, and every character seems to have some connection to one another, so there's plenty of gossip going around about the personal lives and problems of others. Mare is a well-known public figure, and her job with the police results in countless interactions between her and the locals, who will call her for anything from a minor disturbance to serious problems. This speaks to her dedication to her job, but it also says that she cares about the people she serves in Eastown. Mare shares her home with her widowed mother, teenage daughter, and grandson. She's divorced, and her ex-husband lives close by, because of course he does. You get the sense that most Easttowners are lifers, which of course adds to the sense of community. Mare is also well known for her time as a high school basketball player, where she led her team to a victory in the regional championships, and that made her somewhat of a local legend. But she doesn't exactly like to talk about it. She isn't big on discussing her past or even talking about herself in general. We'll get more into the reasons behind this later on in the video.
Any periods of depression? Yeah. I mean, there were times, Yeah, thinking back. Maybe I was. I probably was.
Mare's happiness is stifled by the suffocative effects of grief and depression, and we witness how this impacts her relationships throughout her story. This is mainly the result of her taking responsibility for things she cannot control, and this is the core issue that makes her so miserable. So what exactly happened that made her this way? Well, let's take a closer look.
But, growing up, my mom, she didn't have patience for any of that. And she was overwhelmed dealing with my dad, so, I didn't want to burden her any more than she already was, so I just coped with it.
She seems to be the kind of person who bottles things up and puts on a brave face, while things eat her up from the inside. Eventually, that becomes too much of a burden for anyone to carry. It appears that Mare's father had some serious emotional problems too, and he took his own life when she was just a little girl. Mare learned this behavior of holding everything in as a child. She thought that by doing so, she would be less of a burden to her mother, whose hands were full from dealing with her father. This became a pattern that stuck with her into adulthood. So, when Mare is now faced with a new tragedy, she doesn't even know how to begin to process any of it because she never learned how to. In this series, the case becomes the catalyst or vehicle by which Mare begins to change. Let's look at some of the other events that formed her perspective on things. In the first episode, we learned that the chief of police wants Mare to reopen the case of a missing girl, Katie Bailey, who is believed to either have been kidnapped and or murdered. Mounting pressure from the city and locals has forced the chief's hand, and he orders Mare to continue working on the mysterious disappearance. She doesn't seem to think there is any hope in solving the case because it went cold a while ago, and they currently have nothing to go on. Now it happens that this missing girl is the daughter of her former basketball teammate and friend, Dawn Bailey. This case was apparently a big deal, and it's clear that Mare feels responsible for not being able to give Dawn some kind of closure.
Saw you on TV this morning, Dawn. You know, if you don't think I'm doing my job, I just wish you'd come with me first.
This isn't about you, Mare. It's about finding my daughter.
Yeah, I know that. I do know that, but I'm doing my job,
Mare,
Dawn.
Laura, you get her away from me
I'm doing my
right
job.
now.
Hey, it's not the right time to have this conversation, okay?
You can tell because she takes Dawn's public pleas to continue the case personally, as if Dawn is accusing her of failing at her job. This creates a lot of tension between the two women because Dawn adamantly believes her daughter is not dead, but alive somewhere, and that the police, mainly Mare, have given up on her. Despite all this, Dawn still sees Mare as a friend and believes in her.
You keep going down this road, but you're not gonna like how it ends.
Leave her alone, Tony.
The hell you defending her for? What's she ever done for you, Dawn? Or Katie?
Okay, Dawn.
The fact that she defends her from an angry townie shows she's got no hard feelings. Mare had a son that tragically took his own life as a teenager. His body was found in an attic of their home, first by his sister. Mare seems to be unable to talk about any of it, mainly because she blames herself for what happened. She believes she was a bad mother to her son.
But you were a good mother.
No. No, I wasn't.
Now there's a lot you could assume here, but the writers never go into detail as to what their relationship was actually like. However, what we do know is that Mare mentions that Kevin became difficult to deal with as a child, probably due to emotional instability among other things. She's also worried that there is a possible genetic connection between the suicide of her father and her son, and that this might also be the fate of her grandson Drew. She feels this way because she is seeing some of the same behavioral patterns with Drew as she did with Kevin. Whatever the case may be, Mare's son had some developmental issues as a child and became addicted to drugs as a teenager. Addictions are often ways to hide from personal pain, a sort of self-medicating method for avoiding feelings we don't want and replacing them with ones that feel good. The deeper the pain, the stronger the distraction needs to be. Mare's son must have had some pain he wanted to escape from, and she was unable to help or to stop the downward spiral that resulted. We witness one flashback where a seemingly high teenage Kevin is basically demanding money from her, along with Carrie, his then girlfriend, and the future mother of his son Drew.
Stop!
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Please stop it, Kevin! Stop it, Kevin! Stop it!
I fucking hate you! I fucking hate you!
This kind of experience had to be traumatizing for her. The little boy she raised has become an unrecognizable monster. As we touched on previously, the effects of Kevin's death extended into her relationship with other family members. It appears to be why she and her then husband Frank ended up getting a divorce. In the story, Frank has recently gotten engaged to someone else, and Mare seems to be a bit bothered by it, to say the least. In one argument, Frank spells out what he thinks Mare's problem is, as plainly as one possibly could.
Well, you tell me how it works. I'm not afraid of their test, just like I'm not afraid to talk about our son!
He recognizes that she's generally unhappy, and that is directly related to the fact that she has not properly grieved. You get the impression that everyone around Mare can see this. Well, everyone except her. We also see a similar interaction between Mare and her daughter, Shaban.
I hate you for that. I hate that you made me find him. We don't even talk about him, Mom. We don't even talk
What are you talking about?
We don't even
Come on,
talk about him anymore. And I hate you for that. I hate you. You should have been the one to find him. Not me. Not me. Stop.
Shaban says it should have been Mare that found Kevin's body, so it should have been her that experienced that pain first. Granted, she was drunk when she said it, but you can see the resentment runs deep. Again, we don't know for certain, but I would guess that Mare was probably emotionally unavailable when it came to her son, just based on her general disposition when it comes to having difficult conversations. Mare's inability to even talk about Kevin's death is making it hard for them to heal as a family. This is what ended her marriage and alienated her daughter. Mare has custody of Drew at the start of the story because Carrie, his birth mother, was deemed unfit for custody of him by the courts. Carrie is a recovering addict, and she is planning on regaining custody of him legally. She's the same girl we see in the flashback with her son aggressively demanding cash from Mare. Carrie is Drew's birth mother, and as long as she is up to the task, she has the right to custody of Drew. And it looks like that's the way things are going to go.
But I'm on medication now, and I haven't had an episode in 16 months, and he's my son, goddammit! Mine, not yours.
Of course, Mare's not really feeling this. Mare's grandson is the only real connection she still has to her deceased son. It's easy to see how that might make her feel a desperate need to keep him in her life, and it does. In fact, her desire becomes so powerful that she does the unthinkable and resorts to abusing her power as a police officer. Mare steals some drugs from the evidence lockup at the station and plants it on Carrie, hoping that this will destroy any chance of her getting custody of Drew when she's caught with it. Pretty wild stuff. Obviously, this is an awful thing to do to anyone, but it shows just how much it means to her when Mare, a person who is normally lawful and moral, decides to turn to this kind of act. Fortunately, her plan backfires because the chief figures out her game and puts an end to it.
Because I know what you've been through, and I know you're worth saving.
Please.
Gun and badge.
Mare is desperately trying to control things beyond reason, and it puts everything she's worked for at risk. She's very lucky that she has a boss that is sympathetic to her situation and believes in her and is willing to cover for her, allowing her to keep her career and clean reputation. There isn't a whole lot to say on this, but it's worth talking about. Mare meets Richard, a writer and overall nice guy, who takes a sincere interest in her. It's almost funny to see how she reacts to his advances. She seems completely confused and unable to respond to compliments or any attempts at flattery. That's not unusual given the way that she sees herself. On their first date, Mare decides to leave early after seeing a group of female fans fawning over him, and she feels a bit foolish for showing up at all. In the end, Richard's intentions towards Mare are actually sincere, and he tries to give her support and advice, seeing just how troubled she is in her personal life.
I think you ought to sit with Drew's mother and tell her that you want to be part of his life. And if it feels like you're conceding something or whatever, you're not. Okay? He's your grandson.
This part of Mare's life is mostly positive and continues to be throughout the story. It no doubt helps her to find her way to being a better person in the end. I just want to return to the point about Mare's basketball legacy for a moment, because her early life seems to have cast some long shadows on the present. Its significance is that expectations were high regarding her potential back then. She was probably expected to do big things and continue to have a legendary career as most would expect. It could be that she doesn't feel she's met that bar, and any talk of her storied past is a constant reminder of her current day failures. She's not the person she expected she would be, and that past is constantly hounding her. At the end of the first episode, we found out that the body of a local girl, Erin McMiniman, was found murdered. This new case ignites suspicion that this incident is related to the Katie Bailey case. The list of suspects runs long, and Mare finds herself forced into looking at people she calls friends as suspects. There is tremendous pressure to solve this case, and Mare knows that she cannot have a repeat of the past here. She cannot bear the disappointment that would come from letting the killer get away this time. Later, another girl goes missing, and Mare, who is technically relieved of duty at this point, is on the hunt. As luck would have it, certain clues and a hunch lead Mare and her partner, Detective Zabel, right to the home of the kidnapper who took Dawn's daughter and the recently reported missing girl. As fate would have it, Detective Zabel is shot and killed, while Mare manages to survive the close encounter. Interestingly, Mare didn't have a weapon, and she lives, while Zabel had a weapon, and he dies. No control. The girls being kept away in the house are discovered while playing cards, symbols of chance. Probably not a coincidence. This event seems to shake up Mare in a positive way, as if she's had a revelation about her life on a deep level. Before his death, Detective Zabel admits that solving that big case at his old department was a total fluke. The case broke purely by chance, and that's how he got his guy. The idea being that, once again, life is random. He solved the case by means beyond his own doing. Detective Zabel's breaking that old case is what lands him in Eastown in the first place. He is partnered with Mare because of it, and that leads to him getting shot and killed. In a similar fashion, Mare solves the case with a huge stroke of luck. A domino was pushed a long time ago that would lead to these events, and no one would be able to see what was coming or how to stop it. The theme here is control is illusory, and not everything makes sense, and that bad things will happen no matter what decisions we make. Mare could not have stopped Zabel's death. After finding the kidnapper, for a while, it appears all loose ends are tied and life can go back to normal now that the case is solved. This doesn't last long because Mare's detective instincts tell her that something isn't right. After taking a closer look, she realizes that Erin's killer is still out there, and that the clues point to people she's very close to. Eventually, Mare pieces things together, and it's revealed that Erin's killer is Lori's young son, Ryan. The reasons are complicated, but not important to this discussion. Mare has to do something she probably never imagined she would have to do: arrest her best friend's kid for murder. The entire affair is painful for everyone. Mare shows as much compassion as she can to all involved. She has to do what she has to do. It's not in her control. She does her job knowing that there is the potential for her lifelong friendship with Lori to be damaged and forever lost. In conclusion, what can we say about Mare Sheehan? What can we learn from her character? As we stated in the beginning of this video, Mare's journey is about coming to terms with reality by facing her fears and learning to let go of the desire to control things she cannot. Life is chaotic by nature, and we really only have control over ourselves, and then even that control is limited. Understanding that limitation is the key to letting go, and only then is she able to free herself from the guilt that comes from feeling responsible for the actions of others. As a mother and friend, she begins to understand that her only real obligation is to give love and support to the people she cares about. The rest is up to fate. That revelation is liberating, and you can see a marked change in her attitude and outlook when she truly starts to accept it. A large part of what gets her to this place is her visits with the therapist and the events of the murder investigation. You can see her demeanor evolve from that of a person who is closed off and defensive to one who is open and honest with herself. This changes her on a fundamental level. Mare is able to attend Frank's wedding and appears to be happy and relaxed. She's accepted things as they are and is able to give her ex permission to be happy in his new life without allowing any bitterness to get in the way. This is a very emotionally mature person, very different from the one we saw at the beginning of the series, where she was somewhat vindictive and jealous. We see her express this acceptance in every area of life, including when it comes to Richard. Richard has to leave indefinitely, and this creates some questions surrounding the future of their relationship. Mare is okay with letting things be what they are, not knowing what the future will bring for them as a couple, but also not trying to force things one way or the other. Another example is with her daughter, Siobhan. Mare recognizes that her daughter is her own person, and because she loves her, she will support her decisions and do what a parent should: be there for her and provide guidance.
It's your life, Siobhan.
Yeah, but maybe you could be my mom for a second and give me some advice.
I think you should go.
Ultimately, it's Siobhan's life, and her choices are her own. It's pretty common for a parent to blame themselves for the failings of their children, but the truth is, as a parent, you can only do so much. You can see here in Mare's expression that she gets that now. Mare shows up at Lori's home knowing that she's the last person she would want to see after her son was arrested for murder. But she does what a real friend would. She offers her comfort at a very difficult moment in her life. Mare understands that she did what she had to do, even though it was painful for them both. But her being there for Lori is the part she can control, and so she selflessly comforts her grieving friend. Finally, the very last scene in the series is the most telling of all. Mare has allowed herself to grieve, to let go, with the understanding that comes with having the courage to face the truth. Her son's death was a terrible event, but it was not her fault. She's able to look directly at what happened and find some peace with it, even though the pain of it will never fully leave her. Mare's story is a testament to the idea that in order to overcome the darkest parts of one's life, you must first be willing to stand in the middle of your pain, allowing it to exist and to be fully experienced. It's important to have people in your life you can talk to and who you can share this burden with. Only after grief is given its due can the real process of healing begin. Pain is necessary for growth, but there is also great power in knowing when to let go of it. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Hitting the like button, subscribing, leaving a comment, all of those things help. I look forward to making the next one, which should be coming out in a week or so. I can't put a timer on these things. I wish I could, but it takes a little while to put these things together. So just know that something is in the works. Anyway, that's it for now. Peace.